You can't be here. Her voice cut through the darkness like a matchstrike, low but dangerous. I already am. Jamie didn't step back. The door to her classroom was ajar, the lights dimmed, just enough glow from the hallway to cast her silhouette across the desk. She hadn't expected him tonight. He wasn't supposed to be in this wing after hours. But there he was, bold, too close, and far too young. She stood from her chair. Do you even know what this looks like? I know exactly what it looks like. Claire stilled. For a second, just a second, she stared hard at him. At the certainty in his face, the absolute idiocy of youth mixed with something she couldn't quite name. She told herself he was just a student in her continuing education class, a guest, a blip, a phase, not even enrolled full-time. Just taking a night course while working construction jobs, drifting between cities. He shouldn't have lingered in her mind the way he did. You said after last week. I know what I said, she snapped. They stood in the silence that followed, heavy, defiant, thick with things unsaid. Jamie stepped inside and closed the door behind him. Soft click. No lock. You can go to prison for this, she whispered, not moving. I'm 23. You're still a kid to them. To them. Not to me. Not to you. That stopped her. The window rattled behind her desk, wind from the first cold front slapping at the glass like a warning. Her breath stayed even. His didn't. He crossed the room slowly. No words. Just the sound of boots over tile, scuffed and sure. He reached her desk and placed something down, a single red apple. Not fresh. Bruised on one side. A joke, maybe. She almost laughed, but it caught in her throat. Then he did something she didn't expect. He sat. Right on the floor in front of her. Cross-legged. Silent. Waiting. What are you doing? She asked, voice raw. Listening. To what? You. Claire moved around the desk, arms folded. The power play older, higher up, towering. But something was crumbling. This wasn't the kind of attention she was used to anymore. Most days, she was invisible. A woman in her 40s, professionally respected, personally hollowed out. Divorced 5 years. No kids. Surrounded by 20-year-olds with streaming ring lights and dreams they still believed in. Until Jamie. People talk, she said, watching him carefully. Let them. You don't care that I'm twice your age? You're not. He looked up. You're 43. That's not twice. She almost smiled. Almost. You think this is funny? No. I think it's honest. You don't know the first thing about honesty. Then teach me. Something twisted in her stomach. Not desire, not just that, anyway. Loneliness. That old ache. He had a reckless way of showing up exactly when she needed to be reminded she was still alive. Still seen. And the worst part was, she wanted him to keep showing up. Even if it was wrong. Especially because it was wrong. Claire turned toward the window, away from him, away from her own reflection barely visible in the glass. She could still feel his eyes on her back. I used to think this job meant something, she said after a moment. Now I just wait for the clock to run out. Then you walk in, and suddenly it's like I'm in some old movie I don't remember auditioning for. You're not the only one who feels that way. She turned around. Jamie, I'm serious. This has to stop. Then tell me to leave. He stood up. Slowly. She flinched at how tall he was. Taller than her ex-husband. Broader, rougher in the hands. Calluses. His eyes searched hers like he was waiting for her to lie. Tell me to leave, he said again. She didn't. Her hand lifted just a little and brushed the back of his neck. An accident. A reflex. But the tension in the air snapped. His breath hitched. She pulled away, ashamed. That was a mistake. Didn't feel like one. I'm your teacher. No, you're not. Not anymore. The course ended last week. That silenced her. He stepped closer. Claire didn't move. Why me? She asked finally, voice brittle. Why not someone your age? Why, this? Jamie looked at her the way you look at something you're afraid will disappear if you blink. Because when you talk, you're not trying to impress anyone. Because when you laugh, you look like you forgot it was possible. Because when I watch you, I don't feel like a joke. A long silence passed between them. Her eyes were glassy. Not tears. Not yet. But something shook loose inside her, something buried deep. She pressed a hand to her mouth. Shook her head. And then, against everything she'd promised herself, against logic and fear and decency, she laughed. Soft, low, startled laughter that built into something real. The kind that shook her shoulders and embarrassed her and made her look suddenly younger. A laugh that hadn't escaped her in years. Jamie smiled like he'd just broken a curse. She wiped her eyes. God help me. He stepped closer. I will. And before she could stop herself, before she could remind herself of the rules she was breaking, Claire kissed him. Just once. A single, shattering kiss in the middle of a dark classroom where everything, her job, her future, her reputation, hung by a thread. Then she turned away and whispered, "Go." And he did. But the ghost of that kiss stayed long after he was gone. Claire stood at the faculty coffee machine on Monday morning, pretending to read the departmental bulletin while a knot tightened in her chest. The copy machine was jammed again, someone was microwaving fish in the lounge, and the hallway chatter felt louder than usual. She didn't look down the corridor where Jamie's class would have let out 2 minutes ago. She didn't even check the door. She'd told herself it was over. One kiss. One mistake. But that moment hadn't faded. It kept repeating like a skipped beat she couldn't fix. "You're quiet today," said Melanie, her co-teacher from the social sciences department. She was around Claire's age, though sharper in tone and always slightly amused by the chaos around them. Something happened? You look like you saw a ghost. Claire kept her voice flat. Just tired. Melanie tilted her head, watching her too closely. You don't usually get tired. Everyone gets tired. Not you. Melanie sipped her coffee. You vanish. Then you come back with that tight smile and the world keeps spinning. Claire didn't respond. Instead, she glanced at the clock, realized her hand was shaking, and forced herself to put the coffee down before it spilled. She excused herself and walked quickly to her office, locking the door behind her, not because she was scared, but because it was the only way she could breathe. Later that afternoon, while pretending to grade assignments she no longer cared about, she checked her phone. No messages. Jamie hadn't contacted her since Thursday. That should have been a relief. It felt like a punishment. By Wednesday, the rumors started. She overheard 2 students in the hallway whispering near the vending machine. One of them laughed under her breath and said, "You think it's true? That she's sleeping with one of the night guys?" The other shrugged. "He's not even enrolled. Just shows up, stays late, talks to her after class. It's weird." Claire turned the corner too quickly and they saw her, frozen, faces flushed. One of them dropped her phone. The silence was louder than the whispering had been. She didn't confront them. What would she say? That she wasn't? That nothing had happened? She could barely convince herself. That night, she walked home instead of driving, letting the wind hit her face, hands deep in her coat pockets. There was something calming about the cold, like it scraped the nerves raw and left just enough pain to feel real. Her apartment was dark when she arrived. She didn't turn on the lights right away. She sat in the silence and waited to feel something that wasn't shame. The knock came just past midnight. 3 soft raps. She stayed seated at first, not trusting her instincts. Then a 4th knock, quieter than the others. She opened the door. Jamie stood there, hood up, damp from the rain, eyes tired but stubborn. "I shouldn't be here," he said immediately. "Then why are you?" "Because I heard what they're saying." Claire stepped back without meaning to, letting him inside. He pulled down his hood. His hair was soaked, sticking to his forehead. "They don't know anything," he continued. "They're just bored and they talk. That's how it starts." "I don't care how it starts. I care about how it ends." Claire turned away. This was never supposed to start at all. But it did. He said it quietly, but there was a certainty in his tone that made her feel like she was losing ground just by listening. "And you didn't stop it." "I tried. You kissed me. You were supposed to forget that." "I couldn't." She sat on the edge of the couch, arms crossed, trying not to look at him. "We're not doing this here. Where else is there?" "Jamie. No one's ever said my name like that before." She looked at him sharply. "Don't make this romantic." "It's not." He stepped forward. "Then what is it?" She hesitated. "It's a mistake." He didn't flinch. "I've made worse." "Not like this." Jamie crouched in front of her, hands on his knees, voice steady. "Tell me you don't feel it. Say it. Out loud. Look me in the eye and lie." She couldn't. "I'm not looking for a fantasy," he said. "I know exactly what this is. I know the cost. But I also know when something's real. You do too. That's why you're scared." Claire's throat tightened. "I don't need saving. I'm not trying to save you." "Then what are you doing?" "Trying not to lose the first thing in years that makes me want to stay anywhere." That broke her. She reached for him before she realized she was moving. Pulled him toward her, hands gripping his wet shirt. They didn't kiss. Not this time. But their foreheads touched, breaths shallow, hands searching for something solid. She hated how much she needed this. Hated how much of herself she'd buried just to survive the last decade. He whispered, "We don't have to call it anything. We don't have to explain it. They're watching. Let them. They'll tear you apart. I've been through worse." She sat back, breathing hard, looking at him like he was something impossible. He wasn't supposed to feel like this. He wasn't supposed to know the right things to say. He wasn't supposed to make her want to risk everything. She reached into her coat pocket and handed him a small envelope, the letter she'd received that morning from the administration. Someone had reported her. Anonymous. "We've been informed of potential misconduct involving a former student," it said. He read it. His jaw tightened. "They're investigating," she said flatly. "No names yet. But it won't take much." Jamie didn't speak for a long time. Then, calmly, he folded the letter and handed it back. "I'm not walking away," he said. "You might not get the chance." The first night they stayed together in her apartment, neither of them slept. They didn't talk much after the lights went out. Jamie lay beside her, still wearing his jeans, staring at the ceiling while Claire shifted under the blanket like she was trying to disappear. Every movement felt too loud. Every breath felt like a confession. At 4 a.m, he rolled onto his side and reached for her hand. She didn't stop him. She let him hold it without looking at him. The silence wasn't peaceful, but it wasn't empty either. Something unspoken had settled between them, not gentle but not fragile, and neither of them had the language to name it yet. The following week, Claire called in sick for 2 days. She told the office she had the flu. No one questioned her. Melanie texted once to check in, nothing else. Claire spent the time indoors, curtains drawn, pacing between the kitchen and living room. Jamie came over every night. He never stayed long. He knew better than to assume he belonged there. He sat with her on the couch, sometimes spoke, sometimes didn't, and always left when she looked at the clock too often. On the third night, she kissed him again, harder than the first time. She pulled him into the bedroom like she was dragging him across a line she'd already crossed alone. They didn't talk during. Afterward, she faced away from him and said nothing. He stayed quiet, too. He understood that words could ruin things just as easily as silence. By the weekend, she was back at work. She walked through the campus with her chin high and her eyes forward, pretending not to notice how a few more heads turned now. Students whispered a little louder. The energy had changed. Something in the air was off, not fully hostile, not yet, but expectant. She didn't address it. She had no intention of feeding the rumors. She gave her lectures, graded papers, responded to emails, and walked straight to her car after every class. She didn't linger. She didn't check the bulletin board. She didn't go to the lounge. Jamie stopped coming by as often. He said it was to protect her. She said it was smart. Neither of them believed the other. When they did meet, it was at his place, a one-bedroom apartment above a garage behind someone's house he did yard work for on weekends. The place smelled like paint and laundry. He had no couch, just a mattress on the floor, a table covered in notebooks, and a cracked window with no screen. She told him it was a dump. He smiled and said she didn't have to come. She came anyway. They sat on the floor and talked for hours. No plan, no script. She told him about her marriage, how it collapsed slowly over 5 years. Not from cheating or violence, just erosion. He had nothing left to say to her by the end, and she got tired of trying to teach someone how to care. Jamie listened without asking for more. He told her about his father, how he hadn't spoken to him in 2 years. How he left town the day he turned 18 and never looked back. Claire didn't press. They didn't cry or hold each other dramatically. They just sat closer after that. One night, while she was buttoning her shirt, Jamie sat up and said something she wasn't ready for. "I told someone about you." She froze. "Who?" "My friend. Brandon." "Why would you do that?" "I had to." He asked why I was disappearing all the time. "I didn't give him your name." "That's not the point. I trust him." She stared at him like he'd broken something. He stood. "I didn't tell him anything private. Just that I was seeing someone. Older. Someone serious." "That's not just someone, Jamie. That's my job. My reputation." "I know." "No, you don't. You wouldn't have told anyone if you did." He didn't say anything for a long time. When he finally did, his voice was flat. "I didn't want to lie." "Well, I do." She didn't mean to say it like that, but it came out sharp. He stepped back slightly, nodding once. "I get it." "Do you?" "I do now." He pulled on his shirt and grabbed his keys. She didn't stop him from leaving. She sat in his room for another hour after he was gone, staring at the cracked window and wondering when exactly she started to care what he thought of her. The next day, someone saw them. They were in the parking lot behind the bookstore, not touching, not close, just talking, but it was enough. A girl from campus walked by with her phone out. She didn't take a picture. She didn't need to. The look on her face said everything. Jamie noticed it too late. Claire noticed it immediately. She didn't say a word until the girl was out of sight. Then she turned to Jamie, her voice tight. "This is the beginning of the end. You don't know that." "Yes, I do." He wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Her face said it all, tired, tense, already bracing for fallout. That night, a letter was slipped under her office door. No name. No signature. Just 3 lines written in rushed black ink. "Everyone knows. It's disgusting. You should resign." She didn't show it to Jamie. Not yet. Not because she didn't trust him. Because she didn't want to watch the hurt on his face when he realized what the world thought of him for wanting her. Claire sat at her kitchen table on a Sunday afternoon with the blinds closed and her laptop open to an unfinished email addressed to the dean. She had been staring at the same blinking cursor for 20 minutes. Her fingers hovered above the keys but never touched them. She had written a dozen drafts in her head, each one beginning with some vague explanation of misunderstanding and boundaries, but every version ended with her deleting the entire thing before she could send it. The letter that had been slipped under her office door was folded on the table beside the laptop, the edges worn from her hands. It felt like a countdown rather than a warning. She had not seen Jamie for 3 days, not because she had asked him to stay away, but because she had not responded to his messages. It was easier to imagine him as an idea than a body sitting across from her when she was trying to plan her own defense. Her phone buzzed. She didn't look at it. The buzz came again. Then a knock at her door. This time she stood. When she opened it, Jamie was there, hair damp from the drizzle outside, holding a paper bag with food. He looked tired in a way she had not seen before, a deeper kind of weariness, like he had been running from something he could not outrun. He stepped inside without waiting for permission, set the bag down, and glanced at the folded letter on the table. His jaw tightened. "You got another one?" he asked. She didn't answer. "How many have there been?" "That's not your concern." "The hell it's not." She closed the laptop and faced him. "This is not about you, Jamie. It's about me, my job, my life. You can go on and find someone your age next year and no one will care, but this will follow me. This could end everything I have left." He stepped closer, his voice low but steady. "I'm already in it. You don't get to decide that for me." "You told Brandon," she said, sharper than she intended. "You made a choice without asking me." "I told him because I was tired of pretending I was sneaking off to do nothing. I told him because I was proud." "Proud," she repeated, stunned. "Do you have any idea what it looks like from the outside?" "Yes. I do. And I still showed up. I still wanted you." Her throat tightened. She wanted to tell him to leave, but the words didn't come out. Instead, she sat back down at the table and pressed her hands to her temples. "It's going to get worse. Someone saw us behind the bookstore. I can feel it building." Jamie pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "Then we stop pretending." She looked up. "Stop pretending what?" "That this is something you're ashamed of." "You think this is about shame?" "I think you're scared and you're trying to call it something else." "I am scared," she said. "But not of what you think. I am scared of losing the last piece of my life I built on my own. I am scared of people deciding who I am without ever asking me." Jamie leaned back. "Then don't let them decide. You're young enough to believe that works." They sat in silence for a moment. He reached for the letter but she put her hand over it first. "Don't," she said. "It's just words." "No," he said. "It's a threat. It's anonymous. That doesn't make it less of a threat." She stood and began pacing, the room feeling smaller with each step. "If this gets out officially, it won't just be a letter. It will be hearings, statements, headlines. They will pull every email I've ever sent, every grade I've given. They will build a story before we even get to speak." "Then let's speak first," he said. "Let's tell the truth." She stopped and stared at him. "At what? A press conference? You think if we stand in front of everyone and explain ourselves, they'll understand?" "They'll destroy me, Jamie. And you'll walk away in one piece because you can. Because you're still at the start." "I won't walk away." "You say that now." "I mean it." "You'll regret it." "No, I won't." She rubbed her eyes. "This is insane." He reached for her hand but she pulled it back. He didn't press it again. The space between them felt heavier than it had before. After a long pause he spoke again. "My friend knows someone on the student paper. They're running something. About us." Her head snapped up. "What?" I found out yesterday. I came here to tell you. They're writing about the rumors. They're not naming you yet, but they're describing you. Her stomach dropped. How much time? Maybe a day or two before it goes online. She sat down slowly. It's over. No, he said, louder now. We're not done. You don't understand, she said. The second that story runs, I'll be called into the office. I'll be suspended before I even open my mouth. There is no coming back from that. He stood. Then I'll go to them. I'll tell them it was me, that I started it, that it's not true. They won't believe you. They might. You'll ruin yourself. I don't care. She looked up at him, eyes sharp. Don't you dare make yourself a martyr for me. Then tell me what to do. There's nothing to do. He slammed his hand against the back of the chair, not hard enough to break it but enough to make her jump. There's always something to do. The room went silent again. Claire stared at the laptop screen, still open to the unfinished email. She thought about sending it now, writing out the truth herself, choosing the words before someone else did. But when she imagined it, all she saw was a room full of faces she didn't know, judging her, picking apart every detail until the story belonged to them instead of her. Jamie exhaled slowly. There's a conference on campus tomorrow. Faculty and students. Everyone will be there. She looked at him warily. So? I'll be there. And? I'm done hiding. She shook her head. Don't do this. I already decided. You'll regret it. Maybe. But I'm not going to stand still while they drag you under. He walked to the door. She didn't stop him this time. When it closed behind him, she sat at the table and pressed her palm against the folded letter until the paper creased beneath her hand. Outside, the drizzle turned into steady rain. The next day would not wait for her to decide what to do. The auditorium filled slowly, row by row, students finding seats in clusters while faculty lined the walls in pressed jackets and quiet expressions. Claire stood near the back exit, her arms folded, watching everything without seeming to. She hadn't planned on attending, but staying away felt like surrender. Jamie hadn't texted since the night before. She kept checking her phone anyway. The dean was already seated at the front, papers on his lap, and two student moderators were arranging the podium microphones. The session was meant to discuss campus communication standards, just a routine gathering, but now the air carried a weight that had nothing to do with policy. Everyone had read the student paper that morning. The article didn't name names, but it didn't need to. An inappropriate relationship between a respected faculty member and a former student was specific enough to leave only one conclusion. Claire saw the stares as they passed her. She kept her face still. There was nothing to explain anymore. Jamie walked in 10 minutes late, head high, black jacket zipped up, and a folder tucked under his arm. Claire's stomach twisted when she saw him. He didn't look in her direction. He walked straight to the front, past the student organizers, and stood at the edge of the stage like he'd been asked to speak, though no one had. The room grew quieter when people recognized him. Whispers started. Phones lifted. One of the moderators leaned toward him, clearly confused. Jamie handed her the folder and spoke quickly. Claire couldn't hear what he said, but she watched the girl's face shift from uncertain to alarmed. Jamie didn't back down. After a moment, the girl turned to the mic, hesitated, then made an announcement. Before we begin today's discussion, one of the students asked to make a brief statement. Claire felt her chest lock up. This wasn't the plan. There was no plan. She had told him not to do this. Jamie stepped up to the mic. He didn't clear his throat or ask for permission. He just started talking. My name is Jamie Barlow. I'm not enrolled full-time, but I've taken several night classes here. Some of you know me. Some of you don't. You've probably read the article that came out this morning. I want to say something before this gets any more twisted. The room went still. The moderators looked like they wanted to cut him off, but no one moved. There's been a lot of talk about an inappropriate relationship. No names were printed, but everyone seems to think they know who it's about. I want to be clear. If anyone thinks this situation involves pressure, manipulation, or anything illegal, you're wrong. I'm 23 years old. I'm not enrolled in her course anymore. What happened was mutual. And it wasn't about power. It wasn't about control. It was about connection. Something real. Someone coughed in the audience. A chair creaked. Jamie kept going. She didn't pursue me. I made the first move. She pushed me away more than once. She tried to protect herself, even when I didn't want her to. But I kept coming back. Because I wanted to. Claire closed her eyes. Her face was hot. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. I'm not asking for applause. I know some of you will judge it anyway. But don't twist it into something it's not. Don't drag her name through mud just because the story makes you uncomfortable. The moderator stepped forward now, whispering something urgent, but Jamie handed her the mic and walked off the stage without waiting for a response. A ripple of voices filled the room immediately, some shocked, some amused, some furious. The faculty near the front stood. Students whispered louder. Someone snapped a photo. Claire turned and walked out before anyone could look for her. She moved quickly through the hallway, through the back doors, and outside where the air was sharp and dry. Jamie followed a minute later. He caught up with her near the edge of the faculty lot. I told you not to do that, she said without turning. I couldn't watch them tear you apart. They're going to fire me. They were already going to. She stopped walking. Her voice cracked. You think that helps? He looked at her, eyes clearer than she'd seen in weeks. You told me once that no one ever fought for you. I'm not letting that happen again. She didn't respond. The silence between them was thick and strange. Not comfort. Not peace. Just the weight of choices they couldn't take back. After a long pause, Jamie spoke again. You don't have to forgive me. I'm not angry, she said quietly. I'm scared. Of what? That this is all I'll be remembered for. He stepped closer. Then let's take that away from them. Let's say it before they do. She looked up at him, exhausted. You still don't get it. You can leave this behind. I can't. He nodded slowly. Then what now? Claire reached into her coat and handed him an envelope. My resignation. Effective tomorrow. He stared at it, then looked back at her. You're serious. They win either way. At least this way, I get to choose the exit. Jamie took the envelope but didn't move. Is this goodbye? I don't know. Do you want it to be? I want time to breathe. He exhaled through his nose. So do I. She stepped back. We said what we needed to say. That might have to be enough. He didn't argue. She turned and walked away first. He stayed at the edge of the lot, holding the envelope like he didn't know whether to throw it or keep it. The wind picked up. Neither of them looked back.